anything else because I don't want to take up any additional time. So please welcome David Garcia to the stage.
May I switch to this one? Is that okay? Turn this one off here. Thank you very much. Buenas tardes. Soy David y soy de Mesa, y la verdad es que debo hacer todo en español, pero no sé si puedo. Puedo tratar, pero no sé si puedo hacer todo en español. Pero lo que voy a hacer es hablar sobre un poco y sobre mi historia, pero no de educación, pero de lenguaje. So, I'm David Garcia. I am from Mesa, born and raised. I'm very excited to be here. And I'm going to start off by telling you my language history. One of the things that's fun about running for office is you get a chance to tell your education story a lot. And I believe that people's education story is one of the most powerful questions you can ask. But I rarely get a chance to tell you about my language story, and what better place to do it than here. So I am a fourth generation Arizonan, born and raised up the street on Southern and Stapley here in Mesa. And like many of the folks of my generation, I grew up with the last name Garcia and the inability to speak Spanish. I understand the reason why. My mom and dad did not want their children to be segregated like they did. And I also understand, having become an educator, that even though they would have liked to have taught us Spanish, they didn't know it well enough to teach it to us. And so I spent a good part of my life answering the question, oh, your last name's Garcia, you must speak Spanish, with some kind of response or excuse, something like, well, no, not really, I'm working on it, I'm trying. And at some point, my wife and I, Lori Higuera, who, by the way, she and I have been dating since high school, we were about to become parents. And one goal that we set for ourselves was that our children were going to speak Spanish. And I knew that if that was going to be a reality, we needed to learn Spanish. We needed to get to work. And that's exactly what we did. We had somebody come over and tutor us every night. We turned to, and this is incredible, we turned to our families and said, when you come in the house, our house, we need you to speak nothing but Spanish to us. Now that seemed like a very direct academic type of order, but I gotta tell you how it changed the relationship in request. It changed the relationship in my family, because my mom and my dad, I'm the first in my family to go to college. My dad was a commercial painter. And I would say about 8th grade or so, maybe younger, they felt like they couldn't contribute to my education anymore. It was turned over to somebody else, to teachers or to counselors, and they were out of it. And what was amazing was when we did that, my parents became teachers for the first time in a long, long time. And they both realized that they had something valuable, not just to show us in terms of morality and how to live our lives, but something important to teach us. And they began helping us, correcting us, working with us. And my wife Lori and I started a dual language program in our house that is still alive today. And when you run into her, ask her. Still alive. I said, Lori, here's what we're going to do. We're going to speak Spanish all morning long, when our minds are fresh, when we feel good, and we cannot speak any English. And I will tell you, when we started, we had some very quiet breakfasts. Very, very quiet. In fact, I would wait, and she would do the same, until afternoon to call each other and say, Lori, here's what I was trying to tell you this morning in Spanish, and I got to tell you now in English. Okay? So our first daughter comes along, Lola. And it was interesting and amazing to see how our family reacted to Lola. We wanted everyone to speak Spanish to Lola. And our family said, but when's she going to learn English? We said, she's going to learn both. She's going to learn both. Are you sure? Are you ever going to talk to her in English? Nope, only in Spanish, only in Spanish. And we having done some research, and I hope I was right on this, I prepared my family. She's probably going to speak a little bit later than most. just because she's learning 2 languages so that folks wouldn't get alarmed. Thankfully, Lola was very verbal very early. She started speaking both right away. And it encouraged our entire family to do the same, to continue to speak in Spanish. I also took every opportunity as a professional to learn Spanish. Joel Lauren is here with us. Joel, will you raise your hand real quick? Joel was one of my students. He is the principal of Biltmore Prep. One of the things I did at ASU was take assignments that took me to Mexico, or in our case, Costa Rica, so that I could continue to learn Spanish. And the last part of my language story is this. When I had an opportunity to go on sabbatical, my wife and I went to Salamanca, Spain, and lived for almost a year. And we took our daughters with us. They attended a neighborhood Spanish school and did remarkably well. Their ability to learn both and code switch back and forth, and they will be able to say certain constructions in Spanish much better and much quicker than I will ever do, because they learned it in Spain first and foremost. And when we were in Spain, our daughters would, they'd go out and play, and we would go up to introduce ourselves to the parents just to get a chance to speak. And as soon as Lori and I opened our mouth, they would say, "Oh, we thought you were from Spain." Why? Because they were listening to Lola and Olivia, who were fantastic with the Spanish accent, and then their parents would go there and speak, and they'd go, "Oh no, we know you're not from here. We know you're not from here, obviously." So I got to tell you how important that is, and that has found its way into my campaign. Those of you who do not know this, I will tell you what we are pushing for specifically around languages in Arizona. Okay? I have made it clear to everybody who supports me, Chamber of Commerce, the Arizona Education Association, Arizona Republic, that one of our goals in Arizona is that for every student who can, every student who wants to, they should graduate from Arizona public schools academically proficient in more than one world language. See, I believe that Arizona can do that. We can do it because we have language diversity as a natural human resource. From my perspective, we've had a dual language program in Arizona since before it was Arizona, folks. It has been part of who we are. And other states, like our friends in Utah, get a lot of attention for their state dual language program. We should be getting that attention. We should be embracing our language diversity. And here's where it matters. I hear our business community say over and over again, we need to get our students ready to compete in a global economy. And my response is, if I were to get students ready to compete in a global economy, the very first thing I would do is teach them more than one world language. That's the first thing I would do. And I got a chance to get in front of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce to make this argument, all CEOs. And I said, how many of you speak another language? Nobody raised their hand. I said, let's think about this for a second. My daughter, who's 7, can do something that nobody in the room can do. They can go to Mexico. She can go to Mexico. My daughters, both of them. They can go to Mexico, our biggest trade partner, and speak to a CEO in their native tongue. That is amazing, folks. And the kind of innovation, the kind of relevance and importance we need to put on public schools in Arizona. And the way we're going to do this, just to be specific, and before I answer some questions, is right now, much of what is driven in education is around accountability. You all know this well that are in public schools. You may not know that your letter grades, how many of you know your schools get a letter grade? Have you seen the letter grade? Great. Raise your hand again if you know that 96% of that letter grade, 96, is based off the standardized test score. Look at this, 96. See, we are not going to make any significant changes in Arizona until we change the outcomes we're asking our public schools to achieve. And so I've made it clear that we will still have standards, we will still have assessments. They're not going to count for 96% of how we evaluate our schools, our educators, and our students. And in its place, we're going to put real-world indicators that matter. And one of them that I mention every single time is the ability for students to graduate academically proficient. And I'm looking at academic proficiency, folks. When I get into groups, I tell them, I'm not looking at the kind of proficiency where you leave and you can order a beer and go to the bathroom. That's not what I'm looking for. Academically proficient. We can do that in Arizona as one of the ways that we should be evaluating our schools, thinking about education and talking about education in the public sector. So, thank you very much. Thank you. We got a few minutes for questions? I'll take them. Let's go. Absolutely. Any questions? I'm going to leave this group of educators without any questions. All right.
Hi there. Does your plan include a program that includes language education from really small all the way up to, like, say, high school or something like that?
Yes. In order for, the question was, does this idea include language from K-12? It has to. It has to. I see two fundamental changes. I'll tell you, this is what I'm thinking right now. I look forward to winning in November and sitting down with you to flush this out. But in broad strokes, what we need to do is start language early, as early as we possibly can. But in addition, at the high school level, and not just Spanish, by the way, it can be French, it can be Mandarin, it could be others. By the way, I'm lucky if I can learn two. My daughters might be able to get 3 or 4 under their belt because they learned it so early. But in addition, at the high school level, I also believe we need to have content in a foreign language as well in order for students to learn it academically proficient.
Hello. So I'm Amir. I'm a student teacher at Shadow Mountain High School. I'm a master's student at ASU. I'm interested to know what ideal accountability, ideal testing looks like for you, and how you propose to get us there.
Sure. What does ideal accountability assessment look like for me? First off, I need you to do me a favor. One of my favorite English teachers is there. His name is Michael Steinkemper. If you run into him, tell him I said hello. Tell him I said hi. So here's what we're going to have, folks. We're still going to have standards. We still have assessments. If you think about the assessment, your letter grades as a pie, right, a pie chart basically, some percentage of it, much less than 96, will still be attributed to test scores. That includes absolute test scores and growth. And then our schools will have a menu of options that they can choose from in terms of other academic indicators that meet the following criteria: standardized, meaning everybody does them the same, measurable, and that make the argument that the outcomes make Arizona a better civic and economic place to be. That's the general idea. Why that last part? Why the last part? Because these outcomes and the argument we make to the public that what you do every day makes Arizona concretely a better place is going to be the foundation of changing our public discussion to one that begins to reinvest in our public schools in Arizona. So that's the reason we need that last part. So, one more?
If you don't mind, hi. As I introduced myself to you earlier, I just started at the collegiate level, and so for me, I would like to know who do you think the important players are once you are elected to make this transformation for the state of Arizona? Who are you looking to partner with, and how do you see that kind of playing itself out?
Who am I going to look to partner with? I'm going to look to partner with any group that has a relevant stake in this issue and others, and who is willing to come to the table with answers. That's who I'm going to look toward. Folks, I have worked at the state level before. I've been at the legislature. I've watched education advocate. And one of the things that I'm concerned about, that I will not do, because I don't think it's constructive, is I've seen educators go down the legislature and say, we don't like that. And then when asked what to do about it, what I hear is, we're not sure, we just don't like it, right? What we're going to partner with is anyone who has a relevant stake in any issue and who's willing to do the following. If and we're going to have this kind of approach. If not that, whatever that is, the next question I'm going to ask is, then what? We need to answer the then what question. We have ideas. You have ideas. You're in a great position to let the business community, to let legislators know what's in the best interest of teaching students languages in a way that's going to get them ready for life after high school. We need to take your ideas and turn them into public policy, and that's going to be the approach that we take.
I'm interested in knowing how our English language learners will be able to have the opportunity for this. Like as of now, some of our students are not able to participate in some of our language programs because they don't pass the ASELA.
ELL students, SEI, etc. This is another one that we will get to work on right away. My general approach is this. I believe that Arizona, from a public policy perspective, has approached our English language learners with the idea that you are replacing one language with another. That seems to be the goal. I think it's an impoverished view of what we can do in education. As an educator, our goal should be for students to leave, to the extent possible, with both. The ability to speak both, to communicate with both, to understand both. And as an educator, I will take that approach to this issue and others, that we continue to look at how we can not just replace one with another, but expand, ask new questions, take on new challenges with regard to education. Anything else? Well, folks, thank you very much. I am honored to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. One last thing. To the extent that you want to see any of this happen, I need you to do a favor for me. Go find 10 people and tell them that by November 4th, we need them on board. Thank you. Appreciate it.